I love you, but I just don't trust that you'll do what we need you to do. So that's one of those tropes that gets written into a lot of the books that I'm reading right now. And as I'm doing author comp studies, studying those that I might actually be able to compete with, I am discovering that this is something that a lot of other authors are using as well. And so that has gotten me to thinking about what it is about this particular trope that we are drawn to and what it even is. Like, what is the wound that we are feeling to be drawn to these types of stories? And so the thing that I'm noticing is that there are a bunch of different kinds of devotion. There's ambivalent devotion, there's fierce devotion. There are just so many. And they're all just a little bit different in the promise and the concept and the actual type of relationship that we are dealing with. Now, one of the types that I write the most often is an ambivalent devotion. And it's where you've got these two people and they love each other fiercely, but there's also a genuine doubt that sits with this love and devotion. And I think that one of the absolute best examples of this is in Demon Whiskey between Paige and Leslie. Well, actually, Paige and Leslie and Alma. Leslie and Alma. So Leslie is Paige's sister, and Alma is Leslie and Paige's grandmother who actually raised them. Because their mother is just a wonderful person. And Paige has this ability to summon demons, and it terrifies the ever-loving crap out of Leslie and Alma for different reasons. So Alma is afraid of it because her mother also had this particular gift, but it broke her mental stability. And it actually led to her eventual demise. For this reason, Alma does not like this particular gift. And so when Paige developed it at a very early age, and it was before puberty, I want to say that she showed her gifts for the first time when she was like 6 or 8. And Alma was just like, this is a terrible idea. And Rachel, their mother, was just like, well, I'm going to take the only good kid and we're going to leave. And so that's a great dynamic right there. Leslie is afraid of it because there's a lot that she just doesn't know about demons. I mean, demons are the bad guys, obviously, because we've been told that by men who are seeking to control society through religion and faith. And so demons were a great boogeyman. And Leslie doesn't know any different. It doesn't help that most demons are not really nice people. Like, they're just not nice people. And so Leslie was developing a fear of demons along the way. But Leslie and Alma have always loved Paige, and they were willing to love her in spite of this scary ability that she has to summon demons. Now, the other thing in this particular trope is that there has to be a sacrifice and a moment of betrayal. And oftentimes that same moment does the same thing. So in Demon Whiskey, Paige does something that isn't great. And Leslie and Alma are afraid. But understand that Leslie and Alma are afraid for Paige more than they are afraid of Paige. Because Paige goes to this really dark place. Like, it's so dark that I couldn't write this story from her point of view. But also, Paige's story is very similar to my own. And so I was just like, oh, I don't think that I can do that. And so I didn't. You know, as an author, I get to make those choices, and that was the choice that I made. I think that for me, having them betray her out of love was the most interesting thing for me. And that is because for me, the betrayal that I have felt in my lifetime, in my experiences, wasn't for that. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Now, I didn't realize that this particular trope played such a big part of how I think and how I feel and how I view the world and how I see other people and how they interact and react with others, until I was looking at the marketing and trying to figure out how to share information about my books with readers, with you. And because, come on, I just want you to look at my covers and say, oh my gosh, that's such a pretty cover. Let me just buy this book and then actually read it. So then I started looking at the different books that I'm reading, and I'm like, oh, baby girl, are you okay? Yeah, so going back through my books, we've got the Leslie Paige Alma dynamic surrounding the different types of devotion. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it's different types of devotion. I would say that we are in different points of the devotion roller coaster. Because like there's Demon Whiskey, where we have the betrayal, we have Whiskey Witches, where Paige discovers the betrayal. Then we have Blood Moon Magic, where Paige is like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, I just need to figure out how to live my best life. And then the world is just like, you're not actually dealing with it. You're hiding from it. So how about you go not hide from it? And then we go into Barrel of Whiskey, where she actually goes to Texas and she faces this head on. I think that Barrel of Whiskey is one of my favorite books. I had originally thought that Whiskey Witches was going to just be genre fiction. It was just going to be this detective story. Every book was going to be another, mystery. And it was just going to be a snarky female detective in an urban setting. And then we got to the end of Blood Moon Magic, and it did not end the way I had planned it to end. Blood Moon Magic, Sven was supposed to have been caught, and everything was going to wrap up in a really nice little bow. And the next book was just going to be another mystery. And like, obviously people were going to die because she's a homicide detective, or she was. And it was just going to be that every single book. But that's not what happened. She got fired. And so I was just like, well, crap, what are we going to do? And I was just like, oh, okay, well, we're going back to Texas. And I had no idea what I was doing. I typically do plot. I am a plotter in a weird way, because I'm one of those that I need just like a short little statement for every chapter. And then like I can create all kinds of words from destroy. That was actually 3 really long chapters worth of story. But I had no idea what to do with Barrel of Whiskey, because everything that I told my characters that we were going to do, they said, how about no? So I was just like, well, crap. I guess I'm just going to let you guys do whatever it is you were going to do. And it turned out to be a really good book. In Whiskey Witches, we got to have that in your face recognition. You took my memories of my daughter and you buried my gift. You didn't ask me. You didn't check to see if I was okay. You just took away my free will. You took away my ability. And that was what Paige said to Alma, the woman who she loved more than anybody else except for her sister. And like that really hurt. That level of hurt was real and it was visceral. And she had to deal with that in Barrel of Whiskey. And I did not understand how to heal, because in my history, that's not something that anybody ever did. We would pretend that things were okay and we would push things under the rug, but we wouldn't actually heal from anything. We would let things fester. Yeah, we would do that. And I remember just sitting down with my characters, and this was during a time when I had interviews with my characters, like full on interviews. I did that with Paige and Leslie at one point. They asked me if I wanted to use my experience to deal with this or if I wanted to try something else. And I said, you know what? I think I want to try something else. And that's how Barrel of Whiskey came to be. And they progressed throughout the rest of that series. I really got to see how to be non-toxic, because in my experience, devotion was not something that I ever wanted to seek. And I think that even though I wrote it for pretend people, and it went pretty well, like it didn't go well every time. Like Paige and Dex figured out how to screw this up so many different times. But I mean, Dex was so Dex. And Paige and Leslie actually did pretty well. Like, I think that they healed in a way that I wish that I could heal in real life. Or have a relationship heal in real life. But with relationships are two-way streets. And so if one person is doing all the healing and the other person isn't, then that relationship is not going to heal. And it was just really neat to see how the devotion trope could evolve through an extended period of time. And so when I got into my other books, like, I didn't think that I was going to see this particular trope again, but it's showing up again in Without Villains, and it showed up again in Where the Dust Still Glows. So in Where the Dust Still Glows, we have a different kind of devotion. And I think it's the kind of devotion that I really wish that I could get. But in order to obtain it, you actually have to be a person who shows up in RL for other people. And I have a really tough time doing that. I'm really good at showing up for people outside of my home in clothes is a good idea in theory, but then I actually have to put on pants and leave my house and go into public. And that is no longer theory. And so I'm one of those friends, which means that I'm not really a friend at all. And there's a reason why I enjoy writing stories about pretend people. I think there's a part of me that thinks that the only version of me that people like is the pretend part of me. And the real part of me doesn't have that. And I think that that is something that a lot of people experience. And I don't necessarily know that it's real. But in Where the Dust Still Glows, Lixiss and Yade are these two characters. They're actually programs. They're AI. They were created for two very different tasks. They have two different jobs. And they technically shouldn't even be talking or communicating with one another, but they are. And they're creating this bond that I absolutely love. They're these two very sweet individuals, which is not somebody that I normally write, but I guess it was just somebody that I needed to express this time. And Lixiss and Yade, whenever they step outside of what is expected of them, or when they break the rules of expectation, then they get wiped. Their personality gets wiped. Their memories get wiped. They get rebooted, basically. And this happens 311 times. And each time, Lixiss and Yade find each other again. And I'm just like, can you imagine what it would be like to be loved like that? Where someone could be made to forget you, but there is a part of you in somebody's soul, and they are just drawn to you again and again and again. I am having a lot of fun walking down this path and experiencing it. And I cannot wait to see what we do in the next two books and to see how that evolves. So anyway, that is just a little bit about this fantastic trope that I didn't realize that was such a deep part of the books that I write and the stories that my soul needs to hear and experience, to the point where it's a trope that I put in every single one of my books. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I would love to hear what your take is on this and what books you enjoyed experiencing this trope in. Let's have a conversation about it. I hope to hear what you have to say. Happy reading.